Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Pirates chat. As always, I'm Andrew Destin, reporter here for the Post-Gazette, joined by our Pirates beat reporter, Jason Mackey. Jason, you made it to Chicago safely before what's got the makings of a pretty important 6-game road trip, and I guess you could say 9-game stretch really for the Pirates. I mean, I hate to speak in hyperbole in June. I know it's only June for this ball club, but this seems pretty significant. No, playing some, I don't know, teams in your division.
Teams that we haven't seen, Andrew. I think we've talked about this. If not, we've talked about it over meals or in the press box or something. Like, I think it's stupid that they're just now playing the Cubs. They're just now playing the Brewers. I do think that's a flaw in this new scheduling system. Now, I like Major League Baseball, realizing the teams in the National League want to see Shohei Ohtani or what, you're going to see everybody. That makes sense. But I don't think it should be at the expense of your division. I feel like there's not a great sense of what is out there. That being said, I completely agree with you, man. Like this is a very important road trip, home swing back against the Cubs. I think I said this last week, but I mean, if it goes poorly, there's going to be the tendency for people to jump off the bandwagon. Now they go 6-3 on a homestand. I think it's gaining a little bit of momentum. I know we're going to get into the A's thing that you have some takes on, but yes, very important here. I'm happy to be in Chicago. I love this place. It's absolutely one of my favorite road cities. Not a hard one to pick, but it's going to be some fun ball.
Yeah, fun one, and it's just exciting looking at the standings too, right? I mean, you got the Pirates, a game up on the Brewers. The Cubs are a little bit further behind, certainly, but I mean, they're a team that's really they have talent, especially in that lineup. It's been the pitching that's kind of let them down a little bit this year. And I guess one qualm you could say about the Brewers is it's a team that has that talent, has shown the capability of winning the division the last few years, but maybe hasn't quite played to its standards this year. I know that's one point that some could make is that maybe the Pirates have overexceeded and the Brewers have underexceeded expectations. Well, to me, that all kind of goes out the door, in 4 days when these two teams meet up, and it's, hey, who has it today? Who has it, the remaining time that these guys meet? So I'm with you. I think it's a really exciting series, really exciting 6-game stretch. And if you can pull off a 4-2, something like that, maybe even just splitting and going 500, I mean, I feel like that quiets a lot of the naysayers, right?
One of the things that I sort of thought about this season from the beginning, and I think it might end up being true here, Andrew, and maybe it's true with the Brewers, like the Pirates front line is very competitive. Like their starters, fine. Starting position players, fine. I think where there's going to start to be a bit of an issue is when you need depth. And at this point, I would probably bank, not knowing the Brewers farm system or whatever, but I'm willing to bet that if they incur some pitching injuries, they're going to be able to weather them better than the Pirates. And that's what scares me about this. Like the Pirates are fine for where they're at right now. They should be proud of what they've done. It just concerns me, the lack of pitching depth right now, and expecting all of these guys, especially the 43-year-old left-hander, and nothing against Rich Hill. It's just like, you don't see many rotations where you have guys go like, 4 out of 5 guys, and even Rowe would count going 5 out of 5, I guess, like going beginning to end, staying in the rotation. And you qualify that with Velasquez and whatever. But yeah, that worries me. But at the same time, I'm not going to be, too negative or too much of a naysayer here. I don't think the Brewers, I don't think the Cardinals, the Reds, the Cubs, anybody are head and shoulders better than the Pirates.
Yeah, and the rotation talk, I think it's a really important point to make because it kind of leads us into what's, probably some of the most important news around the Pirates right now is, right, you got Luis Ortiz on the bump today. Wednesday or Thursday still very much up in the air. I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that. I know it sounds like Bido from AAA Indianapolis is going to be the guy coming up to take one of those 2 spot starts.
Yep.
What's your read on him, and what's your read of how the Pirates are handling this situation? Because I know there's some factors out of their control, right, with Brubaker and Velasquez getting hurt, but how they're handling this, what do you make of this situation?
In Burrows too.
Yeah, Burrows. Yep.
It's tough, man. I actually have zero problem with what they're doing right now. None. Like, I know people want to see Quinn Priester up here. I can tell you people very close to Quinn Priester are almost relieved that he's not the one coming up here just because he's still working on things. He's not a finished product. And at that point, you're forcing it. And by the way, you're also having him debut right where he grew up in front of a bunch of people, putting a bunch of pressure on him. If it goes poorly, like, he's not just going to immediately erase that from his mind. If he gets hit with a bunch of pitches, he's going to lose confidence in what he's doing. So I'd much rather give Osvaldo Bido his chance. And you asked me what I thought of him. I remember his start in spring. Man, it was a 2-inning start. He's a non-roster guy. They bring him in there. Before it happened, I remember thinking, what the heck are they doing? Why is Osvaldo Bido starting this spring training game? I watch all spring training games, as you know, from down right by the dugout and, sort of like the scout section. I love being that close to it when you can. Osvaldo Bido blew me away, man. He really did. Like, he's throwing 96, 97, 4-seamer, sinker, really good slider, like, knows how to pitch, knows what he's doing. I've seen the numbers at Indianapolis, and it looks like when he doesn't have that kind of control, he struggles. So we'll see what he does at Wrigley. Obviously, the wind and the conditions tend to be a factor here. But I want to see what Bido does. I think it's the right spot to bring him in. I think by and large, he's earned it. I think they want to see what they have here. And this is sort of the ugly thing, Andrew. If it goes poorly for Osvaldo Bido, I think they probably care less than if it goes poorly for Quinn Priester. That's not a mark against Osvaldo Bido. It's just he's a first-round pick, 4th best prospect, top 100 in baseball. Like, you don't want to ruin him. Not that one start would ruin him. It's just, you're going to be a little bit more cautious.
Right. And I think there's no really better way to play that too. And I know you and I have talked about this a little bit too, but I don't even know if it's a factor, but the Super 2 stuff with Quinn Priester, that's another consideration. I don't think it is much here. I think it's more just a baseball.
Maybe it's a tiebreaker.
Yeah, if it's a tiebreaker at the very least. But, I mean, I think you got to give it to Bido. I think it's the right play here, at least for the time being. I guess a follow-up question to that would be, how long of a leash? Let's say the first start in Chicago doesn't go well for him. How long do you give him a chance? I know Luis Ortiz, it was basically 3 starts until the 3rd start was tremendous, and then they kind of kept rolling with him. And maybe signs pointed to, if that 3rd start hadn't gone so well, maybe he would have been going back to Indy. Is it a 3-start leash? Is it longer than that? Are we speaking too much in hypotheticals?
I don't think they know. I don't think they know. That's okay. I think you need to react off of it a little bit. I think if it goes horribly, they're going to send him back down and go to plan B. I think if it's middle of the road, he probably stays. And I think some of it's contingent on Roansy Contreras too. Like, there are outside factors. Your inputs into this decision are, how does Osvaldo Bido do? What's Roansy Contreras working on? How soon do they need him? And how soon is he going to be, reliably able to give them something? And what does Quinn Priester look like? If you can get Bido for 1, 2, maybe 3 starts, and let's say he looks really good tonight, mediocre in his second one, terrible in his third, like, that might have covered the time between now and when Rowe's ready or when Priester is ready to come up and contribute. I don't know. But, I don't think they would throw him out there and he gets his face ripped off, to use a Steve Blass term. If that happens, I don't think they'd do it again. I just think you have to see what happens.
I'll extrapolate it to one more pitching question. I'm overloading you here, but it comes to mind. We're still a ways away from the trade deadline, but given what the Pirates have endured with guys getting banged up, does it enter your mind at all what's going on with the rotation, that, let's say this series or this 9-game stretch goes well and the Pirates remain in first, or they're right there in contention? Is that a priority? Is that a top priority of, hey, at the deadline or sometime before it? It could even be as soon as, beginning of July, something like that. Yep. Is going out and getting an arm, do you think that might be a priority for this club if they're still in contention?
Yeah, within reason, though, Andrew. Within reason. And here's what I mean by that. They're not going to sell the farm to get anybody. Endy, Henry, no. You're not going to punt on your plans for 2024, 2025 just to go after 2023. Like, they're very much aware of where they sit and playing the long game. Now, that being said, can you deal from a position of strength to address a weakness with the major league club? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. And, I look at somebody like Cal Mitchell, who, has gotten an opportunity up here. It's been tearing up AAA. I can't really think of a good reason to call him up right now. I mean, maybe you could have gone with him over Kanan Smith and Jigba. I think it's probably negligible which one of those guys you pick, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player. A team might have an opportunity for Cal Mitchell to come up and he contributes. So anyway, if you deal a prospect that's not one of your premium guys and you can get some sort of major league pitching back, I'm okay with that. Now, I have my doubts whether that deal would actually help the Pirates get better at the major league level. So I think they're going to maybe dip their toes in it, see if somebody's squeezed out of a spot, see if, somebody's out there they can maybe bring in, who's not pitching for a major league team right now, who wants some sort of opportunity. I think they'll address the rotation in some way. I just don't know if it's a priority to like swing some sort of big time trade.
Right. More so a back end arm guy, or, depending.
Yeah, you're going to take a chance on some. Yeah. Give somebody a chance to prove themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I see that point too. I mean, there's no reason to sell the farm when, to some degree, this season has kind of exceeded expectations at this point. Why be so reactionary to it when the plan remains in place? Be more competitive next year and the year after.
What I think is going to be interesting, Andrew, honestly, is like they probably went into this thing thinking they could trade Rich Hill.
Yeah.
Right. Or at minimum, you're going to trade Vince Velasquez or Rich Hill. You can't trade Rich Hill now.
No.
My opinion, like that sends a horrible message to your fan base. You're going to trade him for what? Abraham Gutierrez, and I'm trying to think who the other one was in the Tyler Anderson trade. Like that's about the equivalent. It may be less given $8 million, Hill's age, his ERA. You're probably just going to run it back, man. And I question what you can get for Choi. You're not going to trade Kutch. I can't imagine they'd get a ton for Carlos Santana, given his numbers and salary and all that stuff. So, I mean, they might just be standing pat at the deadline, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of any other guys with expiring contracts. Connor Joe, I think his is one deal, but again, you're not going to move him, right? Or is he might be restricted?
Let me look up Joe. I don't know offhand. I feel like he's got to be getting close to ARB, but yeah. I would move Joe if that was my option. I would consider doing that just because I think you can cover his innings somewhere or a little bit easier. Yeah, what is he? Contract details. See, we can do this. He's still pre-ARB.
Okay, so there's no rush.
There's no rush. Making reasonable buck. I thought he was going to be arbitration eligible for the first time this offseason, but no, I don't think there's much you can or should do. And if you need to move Connor Joe to get pitching, if that deal for some reason works, I'm okay doing it. I want to hear about your Swaggerty piece, by the way. But if hopefully Swaggerty is up here and contributing, or Kanan or Cal Mitchell, or move Endy to the outfield, or you have to be able to cover that spot. If that is what helps you get pitching, because I know they're thin on pitching. They need pitching.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think given what's going on with Swaggerty right now, I don't know that getting him up to the bigs is going to be the first outfielder coming from AAA, because that's a lot going on in his life right now, man.
So what's going on? What's going on at T? I want to hear it. I've not read your story. I just saw your tweet of it. I know a little bit from your reporting. I'm intrigued.
Okay. First off, so wife is currently at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. They're getting testing every day since the tweet that I'm sure you and sure all our listeners saw put out about a week and a half ago of his wife, according to Travis, being bitten by a rabid raccoon. She's undergoing daily testing to try and figure out what's going on there, which of course for his wife Peyton, was a survivor from thyroid cancer. I think that's 5 years ago, right after he got drafted. And Travis, which, I didn't realize this back in spring training, since November has been dealing with really serious migraines that I guess in spring training he was able to play through, because during the day they don't affect him. But at nighttime, he would come back from those spring training games when he was tearing the cover off the ball. He would go back to his apartment and have the worst headaches of his life, and basically just sit in a dark room by himself, was, unreal pain with his head. So he's sitting there hitting 370 with 3 homers and doubles, tearing the cover off the ball. But once he gets to AAA, it becomes really hard for him to play nighttime games. And that's why he took that 6-week step aside with the injured list. He's been working with Andy Bass with the Pirates to try and develop some techniques to improve with breathing, with calming down, things of that nature. But it's been a really tough stretch for him, just in terms of what he's going through personally, what's happening with the family, with his wife, obviously, at the Mayo Clinic. And the thing that he's appreciated is that manager Miguel Perez in AAA Indianapolis has been a good voice for him to get stuff off his chest to talk things through. It seems like the Pirates organization or franchise is very understanding of
organization.
So close. I caught myself. Just barely.
Not a boy.
I was just sitting there reading about hockey today, man. but yeah, so they've been pretty understanding. The playing time, it seems like it's pretty much predicated on how he's feeling. The at-bats aren't regular right now. And yeah, he was saying that like when those migraines were really serious back in April, back at the beginning of May when he was playing night games, there were times where he'd be in the batter's box and felt like he had vertigo, that he wasn't seeing straight. And I can't imagine playing baseball regardless in AAA, let alone having the guy spinning on the mound. So it seems like it's been a heck of a year for Travis. And of course, really appreciated him being honest and transparent about all that with me back in Indianapolis last week.
Yep. He's one of the good ones, man. I think I tweeted something to that effect. I like Swaggerty a lot for that reason. Like, he's just brutally honest about things. He's got time. He gives you genuine answers. Just talks to you like I love when professional athletes are real. And the Pirates are lucky in that they have a lot of dudes in that clubhouse that, I'm not talking about how well they play baseball or not. They're just like quality people who have time for you, who give you quality answers. I like that. Swaggerty's right there. That sounds like a fascinating story, man. And that's, boy, he and his wife have gone through so much. I believe the baby girl was born premature too.
Yeah, 6 weeks early. Didn't even get into that, right? Like, yeah, it's wild.
They've been dealt a lot for someone that young, and I hope to see him up here just for all that stuff. And I know what he's put into it work wise, and the kid deserves a run of good health. He deserves a run of family stuff, and to see this work out, because man, we saw it in the spring. Like, that's what's in there. That's what's in there. This kid, he does not look big, generates a lot of power from bat speed and lower half and all kinds of stuff. Really good arm, really good defender. Like, he can be in center field. He can be a part of this thing, but you're not getting regular playing time. You're not doing anything with it. He's gone through slumps. He's gone through injuries. Like, it's just been one thing after another. So cool. We'll read Andrew's story. I will be doing that as well this morning.
Oh, appreciate it, Jason. And I guess on that point of guys who are just stand-up good dudes who are willing to talk with us, that kind of leads me into chumming it up with you about what happened this past weekend with Andrew McCutchen. That 6-3 homestand. Pirates, end up having a really good homestand, but Kutch made us wait. Certainly made you wait on Sunday for getting hit number 2,000, but we got there. He got it. Let's get right into that. What a cool moment for Kutch, and kudos to him being the stand-up guy he always is to us, taking the time. I think it was 15 minutes or something like that, chatting with us post-game like that.
And entertaining stuff too, right? It's not just like nonsense that you can't use. Like Kutch, I mean, there's a reason this city loves him. I wrote in my game story, and I believe, like, you look at some of the most important players in franchise history. I'm not saying he's on the Mount Rushmore of Pirates, but like, he ain't far off, in my opinion, because of this. Because think about what this franchise would be over the past 30 years if Andrew McCutchen didn't come along. Like, would they still be going through losing skids and no playoffs and this disaster after that disaster? You had a guy come along and capture the hearts of fans, give generations of people, me sort of being one of them, and then generations younger than them. Like, I was talking to Carter about this on his show, something to believe in, something good to believe in. I have all the respect in the world for Andrew McCutchen. I think he matters a great deal to this franchise. I think that moment mattered a great deal to this franchise. I'm still going to tell him he owes me a day off. Because we were talking this weekend, how do we split it up? Andrew, you're going to take off Saturday. I'll take off Sunday. Kutch will have 2,000 by then. Well, sure enough, he doesn't have it. And I'm like, I'm not taking off when he has 2,000 teed up. So, and my wife and kids got tickets to the game, and they were there. So I'm proud of that my kids were able to witness that. But just a special moment in the park, man. Like, if that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what does. I love seeing how much Pittsburgh means to Kutch and how much Kutch means to Pittsburgh. It's just like it. I think I've told you this story before, and this is the last thing I'll say before I shut up. But like, you and I can write and say and do all this stuff that's like, there's logic behind it, or numbers, or we can support our arguments, whatever. People are going to be skeptical. They're going to say the Pirates, well, I don't believe it. That's stupid. Andrew McCutchen comes back and said, no, this team's good. All of a sudden, everybody's like, okay, yeah, Pirates are good. All right, Kutch says it, I believe. That's the power that this guy has over the fan base, and I love it. What'd you think of it?
Oh, same here, and it just takes me back to, I think it was one of my first things really on the beat was the introductory press conference with him was him coming and being the stand-up guy. And I was immediately blown away by that because I'd always followed him from afar, a little bit when he had the half season in San Francisco before he got traded to the Yanks. Obviously, that Brian Reynolds deal. And always thought highly of the guy, not just as a player, but the caliber of guy. And meeting him, for me, that was kind of a surreal introduction of two worlds of, Andrew, the guy who grew up loving baseball and following it, to now working in a professional capacity, and how much respect he not only deals with us, but it's such a, like you said, it's a genuine love for the city. And I think that that's never more clear than when these milestones pick up, or when things like the home opener, with his mom singing the national anthem, things like that. It's like, this is a genuine thing. This isn't, a PR move. He genuinely loves being here, and it's really clear. You and I talk to a lot of people a lot of days, that you can see through some things when some quotes might not line up with guys' genuine feelings. With Kutch, this is as real as it gets, and I think he truly was relieved to get it done at home. And I know you and I were as well, especially to get it in there, and the fan base was too. So all told, a great moment, and it's going to be hard for anybody to get me to say a bad thing about Kutch. I know I've only been around him for 5-6 months here, but very fortunate to get to cover him, and he was a stand-up guy on Sunday, as he's been all year.
Yep. It is something I take extremely seriously in this job, Andrew. And I've told people this, and, covering Sid, I've been up to Sid's house. I've done all the hockey thing and got to know Sid really well. And I think he's an impeccable person. I'm not even sure he's human sometimes. He's so nice and so kind and whatever. And like, I put my relationship and covering Kutch and what I've observed with him. Obviously, I wasn't around the first time. Like, I put it right next to Sid. Like, that is 1A and 1B for me, and the stuff that I am proud to have done, proud to have, I think, done well, done right, whatever, or like done right by the player, been fair to them. Doesn't mean you always write positive things, but you're fair, you're ethical, you have a relationship there. That is he just means so much. He means so much to this franchise, and always will. He'll live here forever. And like you said, he's just a genuine dude. Oh, funny story. People will enjoy this. So we're in San Francisco. And this has been like my running gag with people. I said something to Shelton about it, and then we were debating. We're like, I wonder if Kutch can do a Pittsburgh accent. So I go up to Kutch, can you do a Pittsburgh accent? And he goes, nah, absolutely not. I don't try. I won't do it. And so we started talking about Pittsburgh accents, what his wife, who's from Du Bois, and the way Maria's family talks, and words that they use, and words that are used around the McCutchen house. Like, anyway, that's the flavor of what you get being around Andrew McCutchen. And it wasn't like, he wasn't put off by it. He's laughing hysterically. We're talking, I'm giving my rendition of it, and we're just like laughing at the dialect. But he said, no, I can't do it. I won't even try. And it's just a good, genuine, approachable dude.
Well, as a Pittsburgh transplant, I'm not going to try either. I hear it. I know what you guys are saying.
Sometimes you guys do better than we do. Like, I can do a Pittsburgh accent if I want to. Like, you're on the Post-Gazette YouTube show right now. Go read an article. Go read Andrew's piece about Travis Swaggerty. I used to have it in me. I used to talk like that. And thank goodness my mother changed that and corrected my word. I had a voice and diction class at Westminster that also knocked it out of me. But like, my wife, who's also from here, can't do it. She'll try to do a Pittsburgh accent. She sounds, I don't know, like a redneck or something. It's really, really bad. But yeah, anyway, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
I'm the same way, man. I can't pull it off. You certainly can't. That got me laughing at 10 a.m. this morning. That has made my day.
Do whatever I can for you, buddy. That's why we're down here.
I can't take it. Oh, man. Well, as we're talking about Pittsburgh sports icons, though, unfortunately, I think that leads us into a more serious and unfortunate topic with the late Stan Severn passing away last night. Obviously, as I mentioned, a Pittsburgh transplant. Stan Severn was somebody that I wasn't fortunate enough to get to know on a personal level, but Jason, you were, and I'll throw the ball into your court. To you, I know he meant a lot to people in the city of Pittsburgh. What did he mean to you, both with your career and just as a person you got to know?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a better example set by somebody than Stan Severn. Love your job, be kind to people, unabashedly love your job, right? Like, he'd show up to things. He wanted to work until he died, frankly. And that's what he did. Like, he loved the business. He loved talking sports. He was never too big for anybody. A personal example of that, I told you off of this show. When I was in college, my dad told me to email Stan Severn, that he heard from a coworker that, like, Stan Severn will be willing to help college kids or provide advice or whatever. So I did, not thinking Stan Severn was actually going to respond. And of course he did. And of course he was super nice and super helpful and super kind. So I've always remembered that. But I've been on Stan's radio show for nearly 10 years now. And it's never not weird. And I mean that in, like, the most glorious way possible, where I'm like, why is Stan Severn wanting to know what I think about the Penguins or the Pirates? Like, that's crazy. I want to know what Stan Severn has to think. I just, like, it never computed for me. But I do say this, that being in this business, getting to know Stan on a personal level, Mike Lang, Steve Blass, Bob Pompian, like all these people that, you know, you'd put on a Mount Rushmore of Pittsburgh broadcasters, and then they're all like the nicest people ever. It's so humbling for somebody who's, you know, I'm still very much in the middle of my journey in this. I'm 39. You know, I don't know if I'm closer to your end of it or the Stan end of it. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, I know that if Stan thinks you're doing a good job, that's good enough for me, man. He's the absolute best, great moral compass, talented as all get out. Just, you can't say enough nice things about him. It's horrible. You know, I was broken up about it last night. I'm sure everybody was, but I'm sure Stan is already influencing some young broadcaster somewhere. So we can take solace in that. But he's just the absolute greatest, the Godfather.
Yeah, a great story about Stan, and it seems like they all kept flooding in yesterday from individuals like yourself, and it's neat to see when somebody has an impact like that. And certainly he seemed to be one of those figures here in Pittsburgh sports media.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
No doubt.
Well, that'll do it for our show today. Covered a lot today. That was all the time that we had for Buccos baseball and here in Pittsburgh sports in general. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated with our latest content. If you haven't already, check out our subscription deal in the description. $6, 6 months of access. Plenty of sports news to keep up with, and you don't want to miss it. Jason, enjoy the Windy City, and we will catch you all next time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it on Apple Podcasts, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For 6 months of digital access to post-gazette.com for just $6, click the link down in the description.